So I got all these phones, the iPhone SE, the iPhone 11. Oh, I'm not supposed to be here, right? Did I hit the FaceTime button?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, I'm recording a video. That's really uncomfortable.
I thought it was kind of random. Whatever.
You know what,
All I
Kate?
did was there's know who the real one is.
Have a great day. I'm gonna keep recording this video.
Bye.
Okay, bye. I've got the iPhone SE, the iPhone 11, the iPhone 12 Pro, the iPhone 13, and the iPhone 13 Pro. Every single one of these phones has a unique camera system with different apertures and different focal lengths and a different number of lenses. So I put it all to the test, and I want to go ahead and show you guys what I found, which was, well, let's take a look. So what are you waiting for? If you're excited for today's video, drop a like down below. It seriously helps me and the channel out. And click that subscribe button and turn on the bell for notifications so that you never miss a beat. Alright, so I wanted to break up this video in a few parts because I've spent more time in the past 2 days filming and shooting and editing on this video than I think I have on anything in my entire life. But it's worth it because you guys are going to be super surprised, as I was, by some of these results. We're going to be taking a look at photos and videos with a wide lens across daytime and nighttime, and then also jump into the ultra wide and telephoto lenses as a bonus as well. So let's kick things off with a photo that I just knew all these phones would nail. It was during the day, it was bright, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. From left to right here, we have the 2020 iPhone SE, the 2019 iPhone 11, the 2020 iPhone 12/iPhone 12 Pro, and then the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro that were just released. For all intents and purposes, I think the iPhone 12 and the 13 shot the exact same image. I mean, you could look at the handprint and say, oh, it's slightly more vivid on the 13, but I'm not trying to look that hard. The 12 and the 13 absolutely tie here, and then the 11 and the SE, they don't do a whole lot for me. The 11 looks all right, but the hand is pretty faded against everything else bright in the scene. It's really on the SE where you just see this flatter color profile. Here, things get a little bit more interesting for me because you get to see a number of different sky tones. In fact, like, to me, every single phone here looks like it shot a different color of blue, but I noticed on the SE especially, the detail on the arch just went away pretty much instantly, and it was a little bit better on the 11, but I could see the windows most clear on the 12 and the 13. And I mean, color profile wise, I think the 13's barely win. I was there. They are slightly more accurate. Just a couple more photos I wanted to show you. I think the iPhone 13's absolutely nailed this last image. The 13 Pro especially just like got the sky perfect, and the other ones just looked a bit faded or dull or off to me. Again, like, I remember taking these photos and what they looked like, and the 13s were absolutely and consistently the most true to life. And the best way to illustrate this is just to go through SE to 13 Pro, and you can see the color science generation over generation, sensor over sensor improve. It starts out looking, you know, it's good until you see the next thing, and then you're like, all right, that's fine. And then it gets to the next one. It's like, oh, it just keeps looking more and more accurate. It was getting a little hot outside though, so I went inside, and you'll notice the same trends here, that just looking at the flooring specifically, it's pretty blurry on the SE and the 11, and it gets a lot sharper on the 12 and is the most sharp and again most color accurate on the 13s. And then moving on to this last image, you can see like the yellow again seems to look the best and the most accurate as you look at the 13s, again due to the better color science. Again here, even with the yellow being dominant in frame, the floor is colored more accurately on the 13s as well. Next up, I went back outside to take some selfies, and I was expecting little to no difference between these phones, but I don't know what Apple did with Smart HDR4, at least for the front-facing camera, because while there were minor differences on the rear cameras between the 12 and the 13 overall, like, the selfie cam seems to be significantly better. Not only does it absolutely nail the background of both of these images, even when the sun is beaming behind it, like, I had to have sunglasses on. Even amid the blinding background, my face was still perfectly exposed and the brightest on all images, but bright in a good way and how I would want my photo to look. Obviously, I haven't edited anything in this video, but looking at this first, I was like, wait, did I edit this? And I didn't. It just looks that good on the selfies on the 13s. Every time I get a new iPhone, you're always using it, and you're like, man, this is just real fast. It hasn't slowed down at all yet. And the same is true with a new Mac. You take it out, and it's incredible. And then, you know, it gets a little not as optimized, a little cluttered up over time. Well, there's this really cool software called the Clean My Mac X, who sponsored today's video, that actually helps you with all that. Clean My Mac X will clean, speed up, optimize, and protect your computer so that it's always running at its peak capability. So whether you bought it yesterday or it's 4 years old, it's going to be the best it possibly can be. And there's so many cool features features in here that, if nothing else, are just oddly satisfying. Clean My Mac X is best known for Smart Scan, where it examines your system log files and your user cache to see what you no longer need that's just been sitting there, slowing down your computer while simultaneously running a quick malware check to run optimization to also increase speed, and you can do this in just seconds. And strictly talking about storage, there's a feature called Space Lens that'll help you locate your biggest files on the system, looking at everything so that you can clear out what you just don't need. So if you own any Mac, new or old, definitely check out my link down below, because I guarantee you will be amazed at these little things that we're hiding on your computer. They look like this. This is what they're doing to you. And Clean My Mac X says, no, time to go. That's Clean My Mac X. Thanks for sponsoring. Check them out down below. All right, it's time for some video as we go over here to the iPhone SE, which has this weird warping and bending of the frame. It's got lighting that it just can't get right. It's kind of flickering a little bit. You guys see that? It's bad. I'll be honest, I don't remember it being this bad until I watched it back. You go to the 11 and you're still noticing some of the same things though. Like, it's kind of warping a little bit when you're moving, trying to stabilize, but struggling and ultimately failing in my opinion. The lighting still flickering. It's actually only when you jump to the next phone and we get to the iPhone 12 that you notice it starts to be a bit better, but the lighting still isn't nailed. The stabilization, best ever so far. Really no warping or bending that I'm noticing here. The best quality as well so far. I mean, the 12's video is nuts, and the autofocus, I mean, consistently great among all these phones. But when you see the iPhone 13, not only do you get sensor shift stabilization, so it's the most stable, the lighting weirdness and the flickering goes away because you've got these wider apertures on the wide lens now that allow it to look pretty good. Although not perfect, you notice the lighting is still ever so slightly off here. Guys, it's when you get to the iPhone 13 Pro that you see this perfect video image. The stabilization is out of control, guys. The quality is nutty, and the lighting just works because you've got the wide aperture in the lens. It looks so good. Jumping over to another video, this time outdoors, it really is the way light is entering the lenses that is just so much better this year. You can see again the weird flickering effect that, to me, I mean, as a video person, it ruins the video to me. If my video looks like this, which it does sometimes, it drives me crazy because it just doesn't look natural. It's when you get to the iPhone 13 that you're like, whoa, the grass barely did it. And on the 13 Pro, this is a perfect video to me. Look at that transition from the bright sky to the dark grass. It's out of this world good. You'll notice it again if we go back to a similar test on the iPhone SE. It looks okay here, but it's not that clear. It's 4K, but is it really? It's when you go to the 11 when it's a lot better, when you have more shade in a lot of the image, and then you go to the 12, a similar story, but the 13s are just so good. I don't know if Apple made a big enough deal about the video. And this, by the way, this isn't the cinematic video, half gimmick, half really cool feature in 1080 that they have. This is just 4K 60 video. It's out of this world. That's all I have to say about the video during the day. It is out of this world in 13s. I noticed big differences from the 12 even. All right, it's time for nighttime photos. I was waiting as long as I could to show you these, but I cannot restrain myself any longer. I'm just so excited for you to look at these. Here's a quick glance at each of them individually. All right, it's like, oh, they look okay. Yeah, until you put them side by side. When the iPhone 13s jump so far ahead that they're not even in the same division or sport. It's really interesting to look at these. The iPhone SE just can't hang at all. It looks really bad and grainy. Even a person who doesn't care about photos can see that. And then you can tell the iPhone 11 is like, look, I can do a nighttime photo. I can kind of hang. And then the 12 is like, yeah, but I'll do a night mode photo. I'm going to crank everything up. I'm going to make it so you can see everything. And then the two 13s, what do they do best? They just show you what actually happened. And the 13 Pro especially takes the lead over here. The color and the vividness and the quality of the sign, it is unmatched. It's this image that sold me on the night mode improvements on the 13s. Just look at not only the overall image brightness and quality of the road, of the arrow, it looks phenomenal. Actually, the 12 didn't look that great here to me. It's the lettering for the AGE and the YL that has no blooming, that looks exactly like it looks when you see it with your eye, that can obviously control its own aperture. On the SE, the 11, and the 12, the lettering just doesn't look natural. It looks like it's trying to add an effect, or it can't handle all that light in the bright spot, but then not the dark spot in the images. The sky, the overall color quality, and the way it handles the brightest parts and darkest parts of the images, it is, what do I say? It's just so good. And after that, I'm usually completely against internet bullying, but I'm not here because the iPhone SE could not take this photo. Like, I saw this in my camera roll, and that's the photo that I got. Imagine if you're trying to snap a quick photo at night, that's what your iPhone SE is going to give you. The 11 and the 12 look pretty good, but again, they really brighten up the image here, and the detail is just not that great. The tail lights on the car are less blown out on the 13s than even the 12. I mean, not to mention the detail in the road being so good on the 13 Pro compared to every other image. It's impressive. Well, I mean, I just am fawning over at this point, but it is pretty impressive. Now, there was still a decent amount of light on this street, but for this series of photos, it was nearly pitch black, as in I could barely see what's in front of me. I don't even remember if I knew what color the car was. It was that dark. And I took the photos, and honestly, the 12 and the 13s got pretty close here. But again, if you look at the top of the trees, the 13, it just nailed it in, even slightly less exposed the sky, which I think is good. And then I actually brought it into a completely dark environment. And when I say completely dark, I mean the only light was the crack of the door, because the door was shut and there was no light whatsoever coming from the room. And it's an interesting progression, right? The SE, that is an unironic photo. That is not Kanye's Donda album. That is actually what the iPhone SE took. Then you've got the 11, which is like, all right, I can make something out of this. It's just really foggy. My problem with this, though, is that the 11 and the 12 just brighten up the image, and it looks almost cloudy or billowy. It's kind of odd here. It's the 13s and the 13 Pro specifically that lets in just that extra amount of light to show you what it is without blowing the image up. If you want to blow the image up, Apple's going to let you do that in post, which I really like. I really think that these images are out of this world. And by the way, this was a 3-second exposure, not a 30-second where it could brighten the entire room up. This was 3 seconds auto-generated by the phone. Everything I did in this video was auto, the phone selected it. That being said, while the dark mode photos on the iPhone 13 series are nearly indescribable, I can tell you exactly what I'm looking at right now, which is the iPhone SE trying to shoot a video at night. It's just, it's having a fun time. We go to the 11, you can see instantly, like, the stability alone between the SE and the 11 is great, but you get that weird flickering effect and some warping and bending. It's honestly not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Next up is the iPhone 12, which by far looks the best. It's not even close night mode wise. It looks so much nicer than the SE and even the 11 combined, but it's still not great. Even with sensor shift on the iPhone 13, I was incredibly disappointed to see this. And then you're like, all right, well, the 13 Pro usually comes in bad cleanup for the 13. Listen, if you're standing still and maybe panning, it looks okay, but sensor shift at night in this low of light, it doesn't work. Sensor shift's still not good in low light. Now, up until this point, everything you've seen in this video has been shot with the wide, the main lens on all these phones, because, I mean, that's all the iPhone SE has is one lens. But the iPhone 11 and the 12 and the 13, they all have at least 2 or more lenses. So let's take a look at some of the ultra-wide photos compared across generations. We start outside again, where even though Apple has significantly upgraded the ultra-wide lens on the newest iPhones, the 13s, you can't really tell. In fact, I literally cannot tell a difference between these photos. I have looked, I have stared, maybe you guys can notice something down below. It is again, of course, at night when you realize, wait, the ultra-wide lens on the camera was god-awful at night, like near unusable at night. If you guys remember, I've had all of these phones, and I do clearly remember I could not take ultra-wide photos on older iPhones. But the 13 is the first where I say it actually looks pretty good, and the 13 Pro looks amazing. I will say that, it looks amazing. It is light years above the iPhone 11 when we first got the ultra-wide, and it definitely is better than the 12s as well. It's a lot better. I mean, 13 Pro, you know, the building's actually clear, but it's this photo that takes the cake, where the iPhone 13 Pro and the 13 as well, but specifically the Pros, is razor clear for all of the text, for the neon lights. There's no weird halo effects. I don't know what happened for the 12, but it was not vibing here. It was trying to add this weird effect on top for the ultra wide. I've noticed it does this where it's this big bleed. This photo is ridiculous, and it looks like you're outside. This is the reason you buy the 13 or the 13 Pro. It's for the night mode photos and videos. Speaking of which, I should probably show you an ultra wide video so you can see what that looks like. I know this is going kind of fast, but just look at the difference between like the 11 and the 13 Pro for the most stark comparison, and then I want to show you guys a couple of still frames momentarily. This is, of course, my my closet, and you can just see like the 11 nearly dark. in the ultra wide. Like the 11's ultra wide lens was there for the feature, it was not there for the quality. Now you can see in these stills just how defined everything is. Again, how dark the 11 is, and how the 12 and 13 to me, they're pretty close. I mean, the 13, it's neck and neck, but it's the 13 Pro that continues to maintain that color accuracy even in these near pitch black lighting environments. It's amazing. And well, that's the ultra wide lens video. And finally, for the telephoto lens, I promise I don't have much to say here. I just really like the 3x zoom. And while it does have a worse aperture, so I didn't think it would look that good, I did actually take this night mode photo specifically, and it was really good. Like, I don't know how it looks this good for the aperture it has. Really good. The telephoto lens at 3x, it's a good move. Good call on Apple's part. I really like it. And of course, telephoto is exclusive to the pros, so only you get the zoom on those models. All right, so I just finished editing finally. Oh, thank you, God. And I wanted to give you guys my takeaways. My arm is about to fall off before going, because there's a lot. Which one is that the iPhone SE genuinely not a good camera at all. I remember giving it more credit when I initially reviewed it, and I'm not impressed. It's not a good camera in pretty much any context. It works though. I also just don't think the iPhone 11 is worth its asking price right now. It's got an outdated design, outdated camera, outdated specs. I mean, outdated colors, if you even want to go there. It's like not a good value. I would stay away from the iPhone 11 if it's a difference of $100. Just work an extra paycheck if you're going to keep this phone for a while. I think the 12 is absolutely worth it. But by far, the thing that shocked me the most was how the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13 were close in a lot of cases during the day. It was just the color science that the 13 nailed. It's so good, and it's subtle in a lot of cases, but it especially shows at night. You see it on every single lens. And also, I can't believe how much better the 13 Pros are than the 13. I mean, it's not night and day like the other models, especially the SE and the 11, but the iPhone 13 Pro has better performance in a lot of areas, especially for video. It has the telephoto lens, and on top of that, with the Pros, you get the ProMotion display, the better processor, the better battery life. I don't think that's too much to ask for $200, and I maintain the fact that the Pros are actually Pro this year. Anyway, that's all for this video. My arm is like destroyed from holding this iPhone 13 Pro, which this is being shot on the front-facing cam. I am going to let you guys go. Thank you for watching. Share your thoughts on all this down below. Which phone are you going to be picking up? Did this video have an impact on your decision? All right, I've been Sam. Talk to you later. Peace.